Hello friends and welcome back. This video has literally taken me 6 years to talk about. I'm going to finally do it today. I've got some tissues just in case, and I thought I'd finally tell my story. And the thing is, I have attempted to make this video maybe 6 or 7 times. Originally, it was a Vlogmas video. It was a Vlogmas episode. That shows you how long I've been thinking about this and wanting to talk about it, but for a number of reasons, being caught in audience capture, trying to build something, and generally just being ashamed of it. And each time I would try and film it, I would cry, and I didn't want to put a video where I was crying on the internet. I've done that before, and I didn't want to do it again, so I pushed it down for a while, and I feel now is the right time to come clean. And it's something I've been thinking about for a while, knowing that this is in effect torpedoing my channel. I know some people might be angry with me, some people might think that I've been fraudulent, that I've been leading people along, that I've been some kind of guru, but honestly the whole time I've just been documenting my life and what happened in my life, and I didn't really see any harm in it. But now I kind of feel this is the last thing. This is the last thing, and I don't owe this to anyone. Nobody's owed my business. No one, you don't have to tell anyone anything about your past. But for me, I kind of want to let go of the shame around it, and that's why I need to talk about it. So I can let it go and just be open, basically. So I think, like all good stories, we need to go back to the start. This really came to the forefront when I was making a scrapbook, and I was looking through all the stages of my life and I was putting them in my scrapbook. And I started off this channel predominantly trying to work out what was wrong with me. And that's why I started asking questions. I would think of a question and then I would explore it, and then I would put it online to see if people resonated with these feelings, basically. Okay, so let's get on with the story. Okay, so basically I grew up in a deprived ex-mining town. Wasn't a lot of opportunities for people. Basically, your path was to work in the local factory. That was it. You left school, you worked in the local factory, that was it. Got married, had kids, and you would never really change your place in society economically. That was your lot in life, and you never dreamt to escape that. That was just how life was. They were the cards that you were dealt, and you got on with it. And we had a really high teenage pregnancy rate, one of the highest in maybe the country looking back. I don't know the exact figures, but I knew from the get-go that I didn't want to end up like that. I didn't want to get pregnant as a teenager, and my focus was not on boys, because for me, having a baby, I viewed that as the end of my life. I viewed getting pregnant at a young age and having a baby as the end, and I wanted to make something more of my life, and that's what I decided to do. So up until the years of 18, I didn't really care about getting a boyfriend. I just assumed that will happen at a later stage. That will happen at a later stage for me. It's not going to happen now, and that's fine. So I really wasn't interested in boys. And then I went to university, and at university I was more open to romance, and I thought, okay, I'll put myself out there and I'll try and find someone at university. And unfortunately for me, I picked a course that was predominantly female. I picked English, and on my course, it was probably, I would say, about 98% women. I don't obviously know the exact split, but it was mainly women. You'd have a seminar, and in that seminar there'd be maybe one or two boys if you were lucky. Most of the classes would be women. So I thought, okay, I'm at university. I'm probably not going to meet someone on the same course as me, like some people do. A lot of people, especially if people go to like an Ivy League school, they go to university to find their husband, basically. And for me, that didn't happen. I did socialise with people, but you have to remember back then, we're talking maybe 20 years ago, there wasn't this non-drinking culture that there is now. These days, if you don't drink, it's accepted that you don't drink alcohol. But for me, 20 years ago, it was kind of a freakish thing to do, not drinking alcohol. And obviously, most of university life heavily revolved around alcohol, unless you were into sports. And I wasn't into sports, and I wasn't into drinking. So I didn't really enjoy university for a lot of reasons. I didn't really want to be there. I felt like I was doing it because it was my parents' dream, and I was doing it to make them happy, really. They didn't go to university, and they wanted me to go, basically. So in a way, I went to please them. And in university, I didn't find anyone. Wasn't really that bothered. I still thought to myself, okay, I'm still young. I thought it's okay. It will happen when I'm older. I'm still relatively young. I'm 21. It will happen when I'm older. And then I started dating out of university, and every story time that I've told has been complete truth. I've not lied about any story time. Anything I have posted on my channel has been correct. There have been no lies. But for me, I hold deep shame that I've never had a relationship. I've never had anyone commit to me. Anyone I've ever dated or talked about has not made me their girlfriend. And when I see people talk about this online, when people talk about being single and how hard it is, if they're honest and they look back at their lives, there's always maybe one boyfriend at college or someone in their life that they can refer back to, that one person, and go, oh yeah, I was loved then. I might have been single for a while, but I had someone at that point. But for me, it's difficult because I haven't had that. I haven't had that one reference point to look back on and think, oh yeah, I was loved at that point. I haven't had that. I've only had disastrous situationships that I look back on, or times when men have used me, etc. I haven't had a reference point. That's why when people say, oh, not all men are bad, it's difficult to actually believe that's true if you've not experienced it. If you haven't experienced a good man, it's difficult to still retain that belief that there are good men out there. And then I'm really trying not to cry. I'm taking lots of breaks and I'm breathing in between so that I don't cry, because I don't want to cry on this video. It's taken me a while to talk through things, and it's not going to be as quick paced as my usual videos, because I'm really trying to process it and talk about it without the emotion overriding what I'm trying to communicate. So here we are now where I'm obviously trying to build a channel, and then I realized that most of my content is dating content. And I've said in my other videos how this job is so difficult to do as a female if you haven't got the ring. If you haven't got the ring, it's pretty impossible to do this job, because people are like, where's the ring? Where's the ring? Your opinions are not valid. And I think I just generally, for me, there wasn't even a goal. It was just putting out videos which I thought would be helpful to people, because obviously I've been dating for a while, and even though I haven't had that long-term relationship, I've had experience of multiple men, and I got stuck. I got stuck in audience capture, and I got stuck in the shame of it as well. The shame of no one wanting me, the shame of nobody wanting to be official with me, the shame of men judging me, because if you've never had a relationship, when you go into when you're dating someone and you go into it and you tell a man that you've never had a relationship, it automatically repels them. They think, what is wrong with her? Why has no other man claimed her? And this is why I laugh about all this stuff about body count, because in the real world and in dating, stuff like that has gone against me. Not having had multiple relationships has gone against me when I've been dating. That's why I always find this body count talk that goes online really reductive, and it doesn't correlate with my real world dating experiences, because I've always found that it's gone against me not having a boyfriend, not having a man. I just felt like it was right to come out with this video and to talk about it, because I know it's so common. When I was going through this situation in my 20s, I literally felt like I was the only person in the world like this. And it's only through social media that I realized that there are people like me, and I'm not alone in my experience. There are multiple people like me that haven't had a relationship, and they're in their 30s or their 40s, and it is more common than you think. I used to think it was literally just me, but it is so common, especially I think we're seeing, especially after pandemic, the younger generation, when they missed out on those 2 core years of socialization. And I think it's going to become even more prevalent as we progress through society. Honestly, doing my scrapbook helped me so much, because it helped me realize that there was nothing wrong with me. And I wanted to give you context why I think a certain way and why I talk about certain things. And obviously, my advice is in response to the way that I live and the way that I've grown up and what I've experienced. So my advice is obviously biased. It's obviously biased to what I have experienced. So stuff like when people say vulnerability works, well, in my experience, it doesn't. Every time I've been vulnerable with a man, it hasn't worked. It's completely backfired. And I generally do not think vulnerability works on a man. And I also think being vulnerable to a man is incredibly manipulative. If it's like crying, etc., women can manipulate men in that way. They can cry, they can reveal things about them to almost push the relationship along. And that's why, in my experience, vulnerability has not worked. Will it never work? I don't know. But just my personal experience, it hasn't worked. When I've been dating someone and I've been vulnerable and said, look, I've never had a proper relationship, it's for me, it's always been ghosted, blocked, don't want to see you anymore, don't want to talk to you, don't want to date you. Like every time. If it was just once, I would put it down to, oh, that's just a bad scenario, that's just a bad apple. But when it happens multiple times, you start to learn, oh, vulnerability doesn't work. And I just wanted to give you context. I feel like me revealing this, I mean, I don't care. At this stage, I don't care if people crash out in the comments at me or if people make reaction videos about me. I don't care at this point, because I felt like I needed to give you context about why I think the certain way, such as why I'm looks maxing, why men pick with their dick, things like this that I've talked about relates directly to my lived experience, and that's why I talk about it, because this is what I've experienced. And honestly, not having a boyfriend has gone against me in every single scenario that I've been put up against. Men do not like dating you if you've never had a relationship. They think you're weird. They think there's something wrong with you. They wonder why no one has claimed you. And for me, this hamster wheel of getting vulnerable with someone, saying I never had a relationship, being ghosted or unmatched, etc. And this isn't just on like one or two messages. I've obviously learned enough to not reveal this straight away. This was after talking to someone a while and going on dates and then revealing it. And I've always been met with negativity by it. I've never met anyone that's been like, oh yeah, that's fine. The outcome you're looking for with this is complete indifference. It should be a man that says, oh yeah, that's fine, that doesn't bother me either way. Like, I'm thinking of like if younger women stumble on this video and maybe they're a virgin and they haven't had sex, the ideal scenario for you is to meet someone that doesn't care either way. They don't care either way if you've had sex or you're a virgin. You should meet someone like that. You shouldn't meet these weird Andrew Tate type figures that like sleeping with 16-year-old women and taking their virginity, because that's about power. That's not about sex or connection. And if you meet people along the way that are just obsessed with taking your virginity, that's really not the way to go. Okay, so I had a sandwich and we're back for round two. I thought I'd talk about how I feel that my life would have been different if I'd had a boyfriend. I feel if I'd had a boyfriend, I would have been more confident, because a lot of the time I see women and they're maybe not as conventionally attractive as maybe what the norm is, but they've been loved by a man. And I generally feel that when you've been loved by a man, you operate in a different way. You go into the world as a different person to someone that hasn't been loved. Basically, I haven't been loved my whole life. And I generally think it is harder to be a nice person if you haven't been loved. You haven't had that love and support from a man. It's difficult to go into the world being a nice person, because people obviously say that men are attracted to kind, sweet women that think of others and that are nice to be around. But if you haven't experienced that as a woman, it's difficult to go into the world vibrating on just this high energy and everyone loving your personality, because if you've had that from a man, it's easier for you to be like that. It's easier for you to be pleasant to other people because you've had that love from a man. And I generally think, would my life have been different if I'd been loved by a man? Would I have been more ambitious in my corporate career because I would have had that cheerleader behind me, supporting me? I would have had someone to take the financial burden off my shoulders. I think of so many things. I would have traveled more. I would have seen more of the world. Things that you don't think about. And it's a relationship privilege of, if you're with a man. I was having this conversation actually with my neighbour today, strange enough, and was saying, does it work out cheaper having, like, halving the bills? And they said it does in some ways, but it does in other ways, because you're obviously using double the water, double the electric. It's only really the rent that you're halving. People always say, oh, it's cheaper to live with someone, but really it's only really the rent that you're halving. The food's double, and it's just the rent and the heating that you're saving on. Everything else is double, but you don't have that chance to really save. When you're on your own, you don't have that chance to really, unless you're in a really good job, to save lots of money, to go away. And I always think about people that do this content that's like, oh, I'm so happy single. But what you really find when you dig behind that is that these are wealthy women that are single. You can only realistically be happy single if you have wealth behind you. If you do not have wealth behind you, you trust me, you will be miserable single. Being single only works if you're wealthy and you have a really good set of friends that will be there for you. And obviously it's easier to make friends if you have money, because if you have money, you can go out to dinner with people, you can do all these things if you have money. And I've definitely felt the downside of this, of not being in a relationship. I've never had that, not just the emotional comfort, but the financial comfort. The financial comfort that a relationship brings you. I've never had that. And I generally wonder, would my life have been different if I'd generally been loved by a man? I think I would have been more confident. I think I would have taken more care of my body. I feel like I would have not been in this fight or flight mindset. I would have I mean, you can't look back, because these are the cards I've been dealt with. Sometimes I feel maybe I'm the chosen one. Maybe I'm chosen to go through this to inspire people, because generally a lot of people would not be able to cope with what I've had to deal with in life. A lot of women would tap out. I'm not just saying that trying to brag or say that, oh, I'm better than you, but generally if a lot of people had my life, they would have given up. I've kind of lived in a lot of ways a horrendous life. And people always say to you, oh, the good part's coming, but it just didn't happen for me. I didn't get to the good part. It's not like I'm going to drop down dead tomorrow, but I've always felt that I never got to the good part. I never got to the good part where I could experience that with a man, because it just wasn't available to me for whatever reason. It just didn't happen. Like, I tried, I went on dates, I did everything, and that's literally why I stopped dating, because a lot of men aren't sympathetic to the notion that you're in your 30s and you've never had a relationship. For a lot of men, they are extremely put off by that. They see it as a red flag. They don't want to date you, and that's kind of why I stopped dating as well, is because I got fed up of almost having to explain my backstory. I think that's initially why I started making videos, because I knew it wasn't working for me on the dating apps, because I could I'd go on a date, get to that stage where I'd be vulnerable with a man, and then I'd admit that I'd never had a relationship, and they'd always pull back. They'd always pull back away from me. They'd always think I was weird. And I just stopped putting myself out there altogether. And then part of me thought, well, if I just put myself online, everything's out there, and then someone can make a decision. But sometimes that works as the inverse for men. Sometimes it's better to just not say anything. I generally believe if you're dating someone, do not reveal any of your trauma, do not reveal any of your wounds until, I would say, literally 6 months in. Even to be safe, maybe a year. Do not trauma dump on a man, because as soon as men see weakness in you, they will run. And I'm just saying that through personal experience. I find vulnerability does not work on men. And you'll get other coaches saying it does work. I'm not being funny, it probably works for them because they're wealthy. That's just me being honest. If you're a wealthy man, yeah, vulnerability is going to work for you. If you're just an average Joe, just dating, vulnerability has never worked for me. Vulnerability will always work for you if you have money, because money is still the top currency. And that's sadly how the world works. I want to also explore why I felt such shame about this. I think for me, for me personally, I couldn't make this video until I'd left my job, because I didn't want people at work to see this, to know this about me. And I still feel immense shame about it. You can probably hear in my voice is a bit, it's because I still feel shame about it. It's something, this kind of, I've been actually reading The Handmaid's Tale, and people always quote about it on podcasts, and I think, how many of you fuckers have actually read the book? And I actually finished the book a couple of days ago. And if you don't know, when women if they don't have a baby or they can't have a baby, they're sent to the colonies. They're called unwomen. They're called unwomen because they haven't had a child. They haven't been able to give birth and procreate a child. And I had to think to myself, I'm becoming an unwoman in a way. There's still a chance for me to have children, but I had to think I might not. I might not now. I might not give birth because I'm getting older. And it's nothing I've done. I tried my best. I generally didn't find someone. And I wanted to make this video for people like me that they tried, basically. I've only really seen Steph Co talk about this, of women. I don't know if maybe Steph has had a relationship at some point, I'm not sure, but I generally have not had anything that you would call a relationship. It's been after a few months, then they haven't wanted to make me their girlfriend, and it's just either fizzled because either I've said no, I want a relationship, and pulled away, or they've been like, I don't want a relationship with you. And honestly, the shame you feel as a woman of nobody wanting you, it is so horrible. And that's the only reason I'm making this video, is so that I can almost unburden myself. And if people unsubscribe, they unsubscribe. I've had to be realistic. I'm looking for other jobs now outside of YouTube. I'm actively looking for jobs. I know this might not work out, but I wanted to just put this video out. I said to myself, I want to get to 200, and then I need to put this video out, because this is the video that will haunt me if I don't put it out now. What if I'm on a podcast and someone asks me this, and do I have to lie? Am I going to have to lie about it? I can't lie. I have to be honest. I hope you understand. I hope you're not too mad at me. Like, I don't want you to be mad at me. I don't feel like I've been giving advice and I haven't been charging for it or asking people for money, but it's generally been such a hard video for me to come out with, and I don't even know if I'll post it. I'll just have to just be brave and post it one day. I made this video for people like me, basically. The people that haven't had a relationship and they feel weird or they feel alone. Just know that it's actually really common. Once you actually delve into parts of the internet, you realise that it's actually more common than you think. And I think, sadly, it will become more common. For me, I've talked about the reasons why it hasn't happened for me. And I feel like it gives context why I approach the men that I like, why I don't wait for people to approach me, mainly because people don't approach me. But I think when you get to the stage that I'm at, there's nothing to lose. There's nothing to lose because I've never had that relationship. I hope you don't hate me too much.